Then, in the last hour, the moment of truth.
The ayes to the right, 317. The noes to the left, 286.
A defeat for the government, one of its most significant to date. History repeating itself.
Well, we did ask the government for an interview, but no one was available. Joining me now from Westminster, however, is the Conservative MP and Chair of the Women's and Equalities Select Committee, Maria Miller, and also in Westminster, Hannah Bardell SNP MP and business spokesperson. Maria Miller first. This is a very big defeat for the government and therefore quite a blow to the Prime Minister's authority and also the Chancellor's authority, because he's championed this, hasn't he?
Well, look, I think many people will be listening to the news tonight gobsmacked that parliamentarians have voted down sensible measures that would have freed up more liberalised Sunday trading, at a time when we've got more than half of families in this country with two parents that work. Some of the comments in the debate today sounded very out of date indeed. Some families have no choice but to go to the shops on a Sunday, and particularly for disabled people and older people who might rely on family members to take them. These liberalisations would actually have helped.
OK, the fact that this has been voted down is pretty shambolic, isn't it? I mean, your colleague, Sir Gerald Howarth, said it makes the back of a fag packet look like sophisticated engagement. It's very embarrassing for the government, isn't it?
Well, I think the SNP need to explain why they changed their position. I think it's really regrettable, given that they were so supportive of the motion that had been put forward in the House today, because it does reflect the situation in Scotland. And
well,
let me get the
SNP to do just that. Hannah Bardell, this is opportunism, hypocrisy. You're trying to deny the English the freedoms that you have in Scotland.
On the contrary, we were very clear from the beginning, and we were very clear today. There has been no change in position. We said on the record at the time in November, when the government had to revisit this was about premium pay for workers, not just in Scotland, but across the rest of the UK. And we also said...
Hang on a second, though. You actually personally welcomed the additional employee protections that the government gave you.
We absolutely did, but they were employee protections. They were not pay protections. And we have said all along that we must have a proposal from the government that protects premium pay, or we cannot support it. We said we would be a progressive force in Westminster, and that is what we were today. We stood up to the government when it wants to bring in measures that will erode premium pay, not just in Scotland but across the UK. 450,000 people across the UK, 60,000 people in Scotland receive premium pay, and there are no guarantees that the knock-on impact from these proposals that the government brought forward will not maintain premium pay in Scotland.
Maria Miller, a progressive force in Westminster, Hannah Bardell saying.
I'm not sure that many people listening to that today would think it's progressive to stop a liberalisation or the ability of local authorities to take a decision to liberalise trading locally. I don't think the families who are listening to this will think the Scottish Nationalist Party are being very liberal indeed, when we can't have in England what Helen's constituents take for granted in Scotland.
Well, Hannah, first of all, Scottish National Party, my name is Hannah, and also
Hannah.
That this is not about standing in the way of Sunday trading per se. We have it in Scotland, and we welcome it. The point is that the government did not bring it forward with proper proposals. It's ping-ponged back and forward, and it's disrespectful to this Parliament, to its members and to the public not to properly publish its own impact assessment, which was only published this morning.
OK,
so
Maria Miller,
the government needs to take a serious look at itself about how it does its business.
Maria Miller, it should have been in the manifesto, shouldn't it?
Look, I think what people want is a modern Britain where we can operate with modern families, and the proposals to me seem to be a huge step in the right direction. And I just think it's a real shame that the politics has come into play in the way that it has, and I think people will see it for what it is.
Well, Hannah Bardell, it is an unholy alliance, isn't it? I mean, do you feel entirely comfortable allying yourself with Labour and Conservative rebels? You were supposed to be different.
Well, we have been different. We have been very clear in our position, and we have maintained our position. So I will absolutely sleep comfortably tonight, as will my SNP colleagues, knowing that we have protected the pay of some of the lowest paid people in Scotland and the UK, and we have stood up to a government who is cutting tax credits and universal credit across the UK.
So you can be honest that your job is to give the government a kicking. That's what you're there for, isn't it?
Our job is to hold this UK government to account and make sure it does its business well and properly, and it has not done that today by the judgment of its own members. So the government needs to go away and think again about how it does its business and how it brings forward proposals properly in this House and take into account all views and the lowest paid people in our society.
Maria Miller, I mean, this proves that your party is split on Europe, it's split on this. It's very fractious, isn't it, at the moment?
Look, I think some of the points that were put forward by my colleagues were very principled points. I just think it's a real shame that when the Scottish Nationalist Party said that they were going to be supporting this measure, which does reflect the situation in Scotland, that they decided to change that situation. You know, families have got caught in the middle. I think the government, I hope the government go away and look at a new way of putting forward their proposals. They had decided to try and deal with some of the problems that people had raised during the debate by putting in place pilots. I think there was a lot of goodwill there, and it's just a real shame that politics has got in the way of a very good idea.
Maria Miller, Hannah Bardell, thank you very much for joining us.